and welcome to the Paid Media Lab podcast. My name is James. I'm the content lead here at Alleyoop, and in this episode, I'm speaking with Chris Nightingale, founder of Can Do Digital Marketing and formerly marketing lead at AO.com. Chris brings more than 10 years experience working across both agency and in-house environments, driving paid media performance for 8-figure multinational brands. His approach is commercially focused, data-driven, and he always keeps an eye on the latest trends and developments in the paid media world, which he regularly shares on LinkedIn. But in this episode, rather than focusing on the latest emerging trends and strategies, we're taking things back to the fundamentals to look at the non-negotiable best practices for PPC landing pages. It's very easy to get caught up in the campaign dashboard side of things, adjusting budgets, bidding strategies, keywords, and more, but that can often cause us to overlook one of the most important aspects of the whole process, and that's the experience visitors have after you manage to get them to successfully click on your ad. So in this episode, Chris outlines the methods, tools, and testing procedures he uses to ensure his conversion rates stay as high as possible. So let's get into the conversation designed to help you sharpen up your PPC landing page performance in 2025. Chris, welcome to the Paid Media Lab. It's great to have you on.
Great. Hi, James. Thanks for having me.
I know you've been very busy recently. There's been a lot of travel going on, a lot of different things you've got happening at Can Do. How have the last few weeks and months been?
Really good. Yeah, they've been a bit of a whirlwind, I think. I've tried deliberately to just go out and network and go to as many events as possible the last few months, and it's been busy. My car hates me, the number of miles I've put on it. But I think it's really important, right, to just keep watching podcasts or listening to podcasts, going on webinars, attending events, and just learning what you don't know. Like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So that's been my real focus since I've started the company about 6-9 months ago. And yeah, it's good.
The main topic that we're going to be getting into is all about landing pages. And obviously, there's so much that we could go into about landing page. You could talk for hours about that. I think you could probably do an entire podcast itself dedicated to landing pages. But what I want to do today, Chris, is go over some of the core fundamentals and some of the kind of basic tips and advice that can help people uplift performance, because I think there is a tendency in PPC to always be looking for the advanced strategies and hacks that are really going to be a complete game changer. But the reality is getting the basics right is what's going to drive 80% of your results. So some people might not like to hear that, and it's not the sexiest topic in the world, but there's no getting around the fact that you need to get the core foundational elements right, especially when it comes to landing pages. That's one of the keys to success. So is that something that kind of mindset and attitude, is that something you've come across, Chris, where it's kind of people want the shiny new thing rather than looking at the basics?
Yeah, absolutely. The basics are, I think, sometimes an afterthought. A lot of businesses, especially big businesses, I think they feel that they've already got a landing page in place. They need to focus on what ads they're sort of doing, the keywords they're targeting, the audiences, all that kind of stuff, web load, all that kind of stuff. So I think the actual content of a landing page, once someone's set it up, they don't think about the different audiences that will end up going to that page, how they will interact.
So just to go over some of those key common mistakes that you tend to see people make, like what are the top ones that you'd mention that come to mind first?
I think the biggest one, and the one that goes back the longest, is having a really slow website, or a website that's just not fit for purpose to deal with the content on a landing page. If your landing page has got loads of videos and loads of images, a slow website means that they might not be loading properly. And if it's a really important video that your teams have spent thousands of pounds making sure is absolutely right for that customer, if it doesn't load in 3 seconds and that person jumps off, that's wasted spend, right? And that's the biggest thing. And Google used to preach about this like loads and help businesses get their web speeds up because of how important it was. They've given some crazy stats, of which I'm sure we could link below, in terms of how many seconds goes by and what the difference in conversion rate is every moment. It's pretty big. So a slow website is single-handedly, I think, the biggest killer. But second to that, it's just not having a journey that's well optimized. It's not relevant to that person. And if you're feeding them information that's super generic, they're never going to give it the time of day because it's not relevant to them, and they're not going to convert, which is fundamentally what the kind of the goal of a landing page is. But yeah, the landing page just needs to be simple, address that customer need, and doing it in a way that isn't going to take them half an hour to read or half an hour to load a single page or 2 or 3 pages, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And that point you made about easy to read and have the information there in front of you. And we recorded a webinar a while ago with Tomasz at Lunio, and we were talking about landing pages briefly in that webinar. And he pulled out a great example from a brand called Real Supplements, RHEAL. What's so great about that example was that there was so much information above the fold, like pretty much all the information, all the social proof that you needed to convince you to make that purchasing decision was there as soon as you hit the landing page. That you didn't even need to scroll. You could scroll if you wanted to get further information, but it wasn't a necessity.
Yeah. Normally, teams and developers kind of take responsiveness into account, but especially if you're busy and you're just looking at it on a laptop because all your developers are on a laptop and you've got a work laptop, you're absolutely right. Like, mobile is never really taken into consideration because no one picks up the phone and just check it looks okay. And actually, it could be something where a button doesn't work or an image looks too small. You know, everything is completely different on a mobile, isn't it? It's the text size and everything. So I've even seen some companies where they just change their whole paragraph structure on a mobile device to make it read more seamlessly and have a lot more kind of checkboxes that you can kind of tick or things that you can press to open up that text. Because, you know, we talk about desktop being a finite space, but actually when you're on a mobile device, that space is 10% the size of maybe a big screen. So super important that, again, you're delivering that in a way that makes sense but gives the people the option to look at more if they want to.
Yeah, nice. So we'll move on to talk now a little bit about budgets. So we are saying that oftentimes landing pages are overlooked, and, you know, that's not where budget is. Not a huge amount of budget is usually funneled. But what kind of benchmarks would you go for, Chris, when it comes to, you know, what percentage of your overall paid media budget would you be putting towards landing page optimization?
Yeah, it's a really good question because it does differ a lot by businesses, and this is a question where businesses often get quite stuck, especially when they're first starting out. If they've got £1,000 spend, what do I put in? If I've got a £10,000 spend, how much can I justify? And it's a really difficult question to answer because profit margins and revenue are all very different by businesses. But in the businesses that I've worked with, it's probably around the 5 to 10% mark in terms of the time, resource, energy, and cost that you're spending on developing landing page changes. And I'd say it all comes down to the numbers. So if let's just say it's going to cost you £500 worth of time to make a landing page change, but actually you get £1,000 back in terms of conversion rate improvements, then you can probably reinvest that, and it obviously then pays for itself and more in the long term. So 5 to 10% is a good starting point, but I'd probably look to increase that as your kind of projects and maybe ambitions, and more importantly, dev time becomes available and is profitable. Because in the businesses I've kind of worked with in the past, devs are incredibly difficult to get hold of, and they've got a very big pipeline of work that they've got to do. They're being pulled left, right, and center. So if you can sort of showcase that my landing page or landing pages is going to generate £10,000 for the business, then they will obviously then push that nearer to the top of their priority queue, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, just about, you know, if you are implementing changes initially, kind of proving the value of those changes that you have implemented already, and that's really help you build the business case for, you know, investing further in the future. So
yeah,
let's now think about, let's say you were working with a new client, Chris, and they were wanting to create some new landing pages, and you were told that you could, you know, tear it down and start from scratch. Could you talk us through the kind of step-by-step process that you would follow to kind of create the right landing page for that client?
Yeah, sure. So I think the first thing is like getting from the company or developing a bit of a persona for the customer in terms of who do they want to that landing page, what's the problem you're trying to solve, and how do you then solve it. So a lot of companies tend to start with, they tend to skip the problem. They tend to go straight onto a solution. But I think for a lot of companies, it's understanding, right, what's the actual problem that we're trying to solve here? Are we trying to get their sales up? Are we trying to help them hire someone? Are they buying a new computer? Is their computer broken? Is their computer too slow? So there's loads of things and loads of problems that I think it's worth clarifying at the start of a landing page to say, is this your problem? We've got the solution. And it makes it more relatable as well, rather than just saying we've got the best computers, we've got the fastest computers. It's, is your computer slow? Is your computer broken? Just to give an example. But to then hook onto that, having a hook that's like, well, why you guys? What's the difference between buying a computer, let's say, from you versus hundreds of other companies, or even Amazon? What's the difference of getting a computer from Amazon? So a lot of companies go straight into just those call to actions, but they fail to address the whole bigger problem, which I think is really important. And if I was to sort of work with a business, it would be just taking a step back and going, what's the broader picture of this actual landing page? Is it designed to get people through the funnel as quickly as possible? Is it designed to enhance the brand, of which time you can obviously take your time with it to give a bit more video content? Or is it neither of those? And we can just sort of address that. So that would be my kind of core plan, I guess. But the biggest thing I think I would find is I'd want probably like maybe 10 people in the business to go in and test that page, because obviously we as marketeers have a very kind of in tune way of looking at landing pages, but someone who works in, I don't know, HR or maybe in the warehouse might have a completely different just approach to the way they read things, view things, interact with things on a desktop, mobile device and tablet. So I'd always say when you're working with a company to just get everyone to test it within a specific team, give their feedback. What did they click on? What did they find? What bugs did they come across? And that way you're probably going to be able to set up a test that's quite nice and quite quick as well.
Nice. It's a really great point, and I think we'll touch on that in just a second. But one, I think you mentioned it in one of your previous answers where you discussed the problem of, if you're using a fairly generic landing page and you have multiple different ads all leading to the same landing page, and you can be easy to lose sight of how the search ad copy relates to the landing page copy, and does that tell a cohesive story, and does it kind of bring the customer journey? Is there an alignment between those two things? So could you talk about the importance of getting the search ad copy matched up right with the landing page, and some of the pitfalls of being overly reliant on one or two generic landing pages that you're just sending everything to?
Yeah, it's a really good point, and the alignment, the keyword there is like alignment, because the way that we're all going into Google ads is we're all setting up 15 headlines, all full description lines, and we're basically telling Google, especially with PMax and the rest, to just send traffic to whatever page it wants to, just feel free. Whereas in fact, I think that's made us lose sight of the real specific picture, that we need to be making sure that the content on the ad matches the content on the landing page. If let's just pick a random example, but if you're saying for whatever reason there's a 25% off sale and you're really giving it the big guns on the ad, they go to the website and that 25% sale isn't mentioned until right at the bottom or in the T's and C's or on a call to action button, it makes people feel a bit, oh, is this the right site? Maybe I've gone on the wrong ad, or maybe that's an outdated ad because I can't see it. So what I try to do is all of those 15 headlines, whatever points they cover, try and make sure that they're above the fold, a bit like what you mentioned before in terms of getting everything above the fold. If you can make sure those 15 headline points are above the fold, if that's just the brand name, the sale, any kind of key USPs, that's going to make the customer, I think, feel a bit more comfortable that they've hit the right page. We all know that you can kind of pin stuff as well, which is great to make sure that you're definitely showing ad copy for a sale. We also know that pinning headlines on Google Ads can cause issues with quality scores, or can have issues with quality score on Google, sort of seeing the ad strength as good or excellent or poor. So yeah, just kind of making sure that it's saying the right things is important as what your landing page is saying. Otherwise, they're just going to bounce, I think.
Are there any situations where you would go, okay, pinning is essential now, or do you tend to stay away from it entirely? Like, when would you go, okay, now's the time to pin?
I would probably pin when I want a message that's new, that I've just put on, that I don't want to test, that I know works quickly. So, whether that is Black Friday or Black Friday sale, maybe let's pin the Black Friday headline, because I know that I want to absolutely show that it's Black Friday week. And then I want to change that over for Christmas messaging, and I absolutely want the Christmas message to be pinned. Other than that, if you're not overly, I guess, precious, or you've not got the bosses that are kind of checking on the ads, I'd say to unpin is probably best. But again, just to make sure that they're covered above the fold on the actual landing page itself.
Nice. So PMax has been mentioned, and I think we will need to address PMax briefly. It does, as you touched on, present some unique challenges when it comes to landing pages, especially when using the final URL expansion tool that's built into PMax. So could you firstly, for people that might not be aware of what that is, could you explain what final URL expansion is and what people need to be mindful of there in relation to landing pages?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you set up a PMax asset group, you basically get the option to drive traffic to a particular landing page. So if you are showcasing products in the Merchant Center, the traffic will still go to those individual products. But if it's a more generic ad, maybe it's an ad in the Gmail space or discovery, and there isn't a particular product attached to it, the traffic will go to the final URL, just maybe like a normal kind of search ad would. So within PMax now, a bit like what they did within DSA, that gives it the ability to scan the whole site. You can tick the option to, basically it's called final URL expansion. It gives Google the possibility to send traffic to other pages rather than just the one that you've asked it to go to. It can be great at kind of pushing traffic to a page where or Google knows that the search query is more relevant, but doesn't necessarily give you the control to understand what pages you want it or don't want it to go to. So they have introduced two features that I definitely recommend people use. The first is page feeds. So you're kind of giving Google a guide of what sort of pages you want people to go to. So there you could put in maybe 5 versions of your landing page if it's a B2B business. If it's an e-com business, maybe you can put in all of your lister pages or category pages. But you can also then, there's something called URL exclusions where you can go in and say, absolutely don't send it to maybe the FAQ page, the My Account page, the returns page, all that kind of stuff. Same thing as a DSA really, but they're really important, and that's often a missed step as well for a lot of advertisers that don't realize that actually you can control where you don't want to send the traffic to as well, which is equally as important, because there's a lot of landing pages or website pages that are built with customers in mind rather than potential customers, and I think for a lot of businesses they just forget about that really. So yeah, it's really important that you're not sending traffic to those pages.
Yeah, and just being careful with things like blogs and stuff. I mean, some blogs can have commercial intent, but there might be a lot of blog content that you would rather not be sending paid traffic to.
Yeah, it's a really good point about blogs actually, because I was always in the mindset that blogs are terrible. Don't send paid traffic to blogs. Only leave it for people who are kind of way up in the funnel and kind of just thinking about what you do. But I'm looking back at the last 2 years, and I've had some really good success with sending paid traffic to blogs, and that was all born out of when I used DSA. I think a blog can be really powerful at understanding maybe the nuances of a product. Let's say that if you're selling a product, and if you can get some really cleverly crafted CTAs in there as well, it can actually really take that customer on a really nice journey. Maybe take them from a blog page to a landing page to a contact page. Obviously, you don't want to have so many steps, but blogs are a really interesting space actually. Like, there's a lot of debate at the moment as to whether we should or shouldn't send paid traffic there. I was definitely in the no camp before, but I think I'm actually changing to the yes camp just based on what I've seen in the last couple of years.
Nice. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that kind of plays out over the coming years and what the kind of what the consensus emerges to be. Because historically I would have been the same as you, Chris, that it doesn't really make sense to me to do this, but things are changing.
Absolutely.
We've mentioned one example that Tomasz mentioned in a previous webinar about real supplements, but specifically thinking about the e-commerce space, are there any other brands that you think are worth looking to that you'd say, check this out if you want a source of inspiration?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably going to be biased with my answer here, but I'd probably say AO.com, which is just a company I used to work for. They are, they, as a lot of e-commerce companies are, really care about the customer journey that they're taking people through. So definitely worth having a look at their site, how they set things out, the incentives that they give people, whether that's ways of paying, whether that's price matching, whatever that looks like, whatever they're showing on that landing page, you take note of what they're showing above the fold versus the content that they're then putting additionally if people want to explore that. E-commerce is a really interesting space because a lot of businesses do things differently. A lot of people put loads of photos on because maybe they're buying let's just say a wedding ring, and they want to make it all look glamorous, and maybe people don't care as much about price when they're looking at wedding rings. Other people really go after the price. Maybe it's a Shein, for example, and it's all about the price, the discount, how quickly you can get it. So yeah, there's a load of websites, and it really just depends what aligns to your business. Are you going after the price? Or are you going after making sure it's a good customer journey? Or are you going after the quality of the product? There's a lot of companies I know that just because, particularly if you look at AO, for example, actually, you can't necessarily go up to a fridge freezer unless you go to a competitor who I won't name and actually start to then touch it and feel it and walk around it. And that's really important for a lot of people. You know, if you look at things like cars as well, it's really important that you go and sit in the car, you drive the car, you look at the car, you're happy with the interior, the tires, the boot, whatever that is, right? So there's a lot of companies that now, because of the way that industries have gone and e-commerce gone, and a little bit kind of brought on by COVID, people are feeling more confident in buying online, and that's because being able to see imagery, video, even starting to do, you know, those 3D visualizations of products has become so seamless into landing pages that people feel confident that the product or service will come as they kind of see it.
To kind of wrap up, there's just two final points I'd like to touch on. The first one being social proof. So obviously testimonials, reviews are super important. What are the kind of top level things that you'd advise people when it comes to building in social proof?
Yeah, from a social proof point of view, I'd always say, like, present yourself in a good light, obviously, but not so much so that it looks too good to be true. So, you know, putting 100% maybe rating, or, you know, we've never had an unhappy customer, all of that kind of stuff. I'd keep it believable, but keep it true. I'd probably tend to avoid maybe video on kind of any kind of testimonials and reviews, just because it slows the site down massively. So if you can say it in a better way by maybe showing loads of 4-star or 4.5-star reviews, that's great. And getting people to maybe write out exactly why they thought the company was good is also another recommend, rather than just say, okay, yeah, 5 stars, see you later. It's about the why behind that. Was it a super quick service? Was James really good to talk to? Was the product itself great? And what were the benefits of the product or service? So being able to put them all together and showcase people is a really good way of doing it. If you can then link that out to various pages potentially to put videos on, then great, because we all know at the moment, specifically when you look at TikTok, UGC content is really valuable, but it has to be done in the right way that doesn't like absolutely swarm the site with 100 videos and mean that customer journey actually is slowed down massively because you want to show them someone looking at your product 10 times.
Yeah, it's a great point about UGC. It has kind of exploded. Like, even when I'm scrolling on Instagram now, and yeah, through the stories especially, it seems like so many big brands are just switching to UGC creators. And yeah, you can see why. It's obviously delivering results for them. So the last question that we are going to touch on today, obviously there's so much that we could say here, but Chris, when it comes to personalization and dynamic content, in landing pages, obviously this can get super technical, but what again would be your top level bits of advice if people are interested in experimenting with that additional layer of personalization?
Yeah, it's an exciting space, this, because again, you can do so much, and it depends on the tools you've got or the technical ability of your team. But for me, particularly when you maybe look at things like Unbounce, which is a great piece of software, they can start to change content on the landing page depending on where people are. So the example that they have on their site is maybe and I'm not saying that people like this particularly, but they might show a picture of a Hawaiian pizza in London and a chicken pizza in Manchester, right? Because they know that those sorts of people like those sorts of things, and they're more likely to resonate with that. So I'd try and maybe set out a way that you can test having different landing pages or different landing page content depending on where people are in the country. It could be, and I'm generalizing massively here, but you know, someone who's in Wales might look at something completely different than someone in London. You might have different images just to reflect, you know, more office blocks environments versus more rural environments. You might be selling houses. So if you're selling houses, maybe show houses that are obviously local to them, but give it more of that maybe Welsh countryside theme. Whereas if someone's in London, chances are they're looking for, you know, maybe a flat or something like that. They're not going to be looking for, you know, a big house, 4-bed detached or a mansion per se. But then have a look at maybe what other variables that you can play around with. So variables that you can put in are things like, what prices are you doing any competitor scrapes? What prices are your competitors selling any products for? Things like mobile versus desktop. So really simple things like tap here or click here can be quite interesting to play around with. And then probably one of the biggest ones is having recognition of the offers that you do. So we all know that we can do this on Google Ads with countdowns, but actually having that countdown also then on your site to say this offer ends in 12 hours, in 6 hours, in 2 minutes, again, just pushes that bit of urgency for them to complete, which is obviously a super dynamic piece of content. The final bit, which is not very landing page focused, but is having that exit pop-up intent. So if people are leaving the site, being able to say, hey, you know what, we'll give you a free audit, or, you know, give you 50% off just for leaving your email address. Those people don't actually have to buy from you, but giving them a reason to contact you or to be contacted by you again just means that you don't lose them forever, and you hopefully can get them into your CRM database as well.
That's a great point. I think it's something that could definitely be used a lot more, those exit intent pop-ups. Like, you do see them from time to time, but yeah, it's not super common. And then the other thing that you mentioned in your answer there is just that point about tap here on mobile rather than click here. And like mentally that makes sense, and you can see why that could have an impact on performance. So that's you can get quite creative with how you play around with the language. But we will leave it there for today, Chris. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on the show and the insights that you shared there. There's a lot of useful stuff that people can take away. As we said, it's really important to get these kind of core foundational pieces right, and then maybe you can come on to look at some of these more advanced personalization and dynamic content strategies. But before we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to mention or let people know about?
No, not particularly. Obviously, yeah, great. Hopefully that's been really useful. Thanks for having me on, James. I've hopefully given some level of advice. If anyone has any questions on that or feels that they need more information about any points we've raised, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Cheers, Chris. And hopefully we will catch up again in person at one of these many Manchester events that are cropping up.
It's inevitable. Months. Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Thanks again, Chris. Thanks for watching this clip from the Paid Media Lab. If you found it useful, you can get the full-length episode on the Lunio YouTube channel, where you can also subscribe to catch all our latest releases. And if you want free tools, reports, and guides to help you uplift the efficiency of your PPC campaigns, head to lunio.ai and click on the Resources tab in the nav bar. See you in the next one.